Picture this: Christmas morning, 1978. A kid rips open a small blister-pack toy, plays with it for a week, then tosses it in a toy box and forgets about it for the next 40 years. That toy cost his parents $1.99. Last year, the exact same figure, a Kenner Darth Vader from 1978, sold at auction for $130,095. That's not a typo, and it's not the only one. If you or your parents kept any Star Wars toys from the late 70s, there's a real chance one of them is worth serious money right now. I'm walking you through 8 original 1977 and 1978 Kenner Star Wars figures, and for each one, I'll show you exactly what separates the valuable version from the one that's just a toy. And every number you hear is pulled straight from heritage auctions, hakes, and verified sold listings. No guessing, no exaggeration. Number 8 is where we start, and it already might surprise you. If this is helping you look at your own old toys a little differently, go ahead and like this video. It's a simple way to help more people find it. And if you want to keep finding out which old toys are actually worth real money, subscribing means you won't miss the next one. All right, here's what number 8 is worth. Number 8 on our list is a Tusken Raider, the hooded desert raiders with the eerie breathing masks, the ones jumping out from behind the sand dunes on Tatooine. If you had one of these as a kid, you probably used him the same way everyone did, hiding him behind the couch cushions to ambush Luke and Han mid-battle. Kenner made this figure in 1977, and it sold for $1.99. Here's the detail almost nobody checks. Look at the mask, right where the cheeks are. There are 2 small tube-shaped vents on either side. On the very first batch Kenner ever made, those tubes were hollow, open straight through the plastic. Kenner caught the mistake fast and corrected the mold, so that hollow version only exists from one short early run. Here's how you check yours. Hold the mask up to a light. If you can see light coming through those 2 little tubes, you've got the rare early version. If they're solid and block the light, that's the common one almost everyone owns. That rare hollow version has real completed sales behind it. 5 separate confirmed eBay sales over the last year and a half, ranging from $135 up to $330. The solid tube version most people actually have sells for $20 to $40. Not bad for a $1.99 toy, but it's nothing next to what's coming. Because our next item on this list didn't even come with real figures inside the box. Our next item on this list is proof that Kenner sold Star Wars toys before the actual toys even existed. This is the early bird package, and if you unwrapped one of these on Christmas morning in 1977, you didn't get a toy. You got a certificate, a piece of cardboard with a mail-in form, a plastic tray, and a picture of 4 action figures that hadn't even been made yet. Parents paid about $3 for it, and their kid tore open a Star Wars box on Christmas morning and pulled out paper. Then you waited. Months. Spring came before Luke Skywalker, Leia, R2-D2, and Chewbacca actually showed up in the mail. Once they did, almost everybody threw out the box, the tray, and the certificate. Why keep an empty package once you finally have the real toy? That's exactly why it's worth something today. If you can find the box, the certificate, and the plastic tray all together, not just the 4 figures that eventually arrived, that's the valuable piece. A complete graded example sold at Hakes auctions for $3,300. The 4 loose figures on their own, without any of that packaging, are worth a fraction of that. It's the empty box that carries the money, not what finally came in the mail. And speaking of things that didn't come from an American toy store, our next item never even sold here. Number 7 wasn't a toy at all, not on the morning it was unwrapped. This is the early bird package. Kenner sold Star Wars toys for Christmas 1977 before the actual action figures existed, so instead of a toy, kids got a certificate. A piece of cardboard with a mail-in form, a plastic tray, and a picture of 4 action figures that hadn't even been made yet. Parents paid about $3 for it, and their kid tore open the box expecting a toy and pulled out paper. Then you waited. Months. Spring came before Luke Skywalker, Leia, R2-D2, and Chewbacca actually showed up in the mail. Once they did, almost everybody threw out the box, the tray, and the certificate. Why keep an empty package once you finally have the real toy? That's exactly why it's worth something today. If you can find the box, the certificate, and the plastic tray all together, not just the 4 figures that eventually arrived, that's the valuable piece. A complete graded example sold at Hakes Auctions for $3,300. The 4 loose figures on their own, without any of that packaging, are worth a fraction of that. It's the empty box that carries the money, not what finally came in the mail. And our next item never even sold in an American store. Now we're crossing the Atlantic. In the UK, Kenner didn't sell these figures directly. A British company called Palitoy did, under license, with their own cardback design completely different from the American one. Out of the original 12 UK figures, collectors chasing a full mint-on-card set will all tell you the same thing. Chewbacca is the one that's nearly impossible to find. Fewer of them survived than any of the other 11. Here's how you'd know if you had one. Flip the card over. If it says Palitoy or General Mills instead of Kenner, with UK distributor details printed in the corner, that's not the common American card. That's the rare British one. And this isn't the toy aisle memory most people have of buying this stuff. For a kid in the UK, this came off a shelf at Woolworths or out of the Argos catalog. Same movie, same character, a completely different shopping trip. One of these Palitoy Chewbaccas sold at Vectis Auctions back in 2014 for £7,000, around $11,500 at the time. The standard American Kenner Chewbacca, same figure, same accessories, just the ordinary US card, trades for a small piece of that number. And our next item wasn't sold on its own at all. Kenner only made it because they ran out of the right parts halfway through production. Number 5 is what happens when a deadline beats a toy company. Sears needed its exclusive Cantina Adventure set ready for shelves, and Kenner's short, red-suited Snaggletooth figure wasn't finished yet. So they grabbed a completely different figure, taller, with a blue jumpsuit and silver boots, and used that instead, just to hit the release date. Once the correct red Snaggletooth was ready, that blue substitute got pulled and never used again. It only exists inside this one boxed set, from this one release window. Here's the check: height and color. If your Snaggletooth is noticeably taller than your other figures and wearing a blue jumpsuit with silver boots, that's the rare mix-up version. Short and wearing red or rust? That's the common one. This was the toy that let kids recreate the Mos Eisley Cantina scene at home. The scariest, strangest part of the movie, suddenly something you could act out on your bedroom floor. A complete, graded example of the boxed Cantina Adventure set, with that blue Snaggletooth inside. Sold at Hakes Auctions this past January for $27,258, a world record for that set. The standard carded Snaggletooth, short and red, shows up all the time. You're looking at $50 to $150 loose. And our next figure has its own cost-cutting story. Kenner didn't scramble to fix a mistake this time. They just quietly swapped the material and hoped nobody noticed. Number 4 lasted on store shelves for only a few weeks before Kenner pulled it. The very first Jawa figures had a robe made from shiny vinyl instead of cloth. It looked sharp, but the material cost too much and wore out fast. So Kenner switched to soft cloth almost immediately. Vinyl only shipped in that first short run. Here's how you tell which one you've got. Touch the robe. If it feels smooth and plastic-like, almost shiny, that's vinyl, the rare one. If it's soft woven fabric, that's the common cloth version. Jawas were the toy every kid used to capture R2-D2 out in the backyard, dragging him off through some makeshift desert. Small, hooded, and just creepy enough to be fun. A carded, high-grade vinyl cape Jawa sold at heritage auctions in 2024 for $30,000. The cloth version, the one almost everyone actually owns, runs $20 to $60 loose. The material alone is the entire gap. Number 3 isn't about fabric at all. It's about a color that wasn't supposed to make it past quality control. That color turned up on R2-D2's dome, and it wasn't supposed to. An early paint batch used a distinctly darker, almost navy blue for R2-D2's dome, before Kenner settled on the lighter blue-gray that shipped on nearly every other one. Combine that with a SKU number printed on the card's footer, another marker of very early production, and you're looking at one of the first batches Kenner ever made. Here's the check. Hold your R2-D2 up next to a photo of a standard one, or another figure if you've got one. The rare version reads as a distinctly darker, almost navy blue. The common one is a lighter blue-gray. R2-D2 was the toy that beeped and rolled across every kid's kitchen floor, half robot, half best friend, dragging along wherever you went. An AFA 85 example with that dark dome sold at Hakes Auctions this past January for $38,940, a world record for any R2-D2 figure. The standard light blue-gray dome is one of the most common vintage figures out there. Loose, you're talking $15 to $40. Number 2 isn't about a color or a mistake at all. It's about a figure that somehow survived 40-some years looking like it just came off the factory line. This Luke Skywalker never got played with, not even once, probably. Most vintage Luke figures show real wear, faded yellow hair paint, yellowing plastic, 40-plus years of sitting around or getting dragged through backyards. This particular example is the single highest-graded 12-back Luke known to exist. Essentially, factory-fresh condition, which almost never survives on a figure this old. This isn't about a factory variant. There's no different mold, no different color batch. It's about preservation. Look for bright, unfaded yellow hair paint and a card with no yellowing, creasing, or sun damage. That's the rarity here. Condition, not casting. Luke was the character every kid actually was. A farm kid dreaming about something bigger. Which is exactly why so many Lukes got played with hard and never made it to adulthood in one piece. This one sold on Hakes back in November of 2017 for $50,622, and it's since been resold through heritage auctions. A well-loved, played with loose Luke, faded hair, scuffed paint, runs $15 to $40. Condition alone is 1,000 times price gap on the exact same toy. And number 1 on this list isn't about condition, or color, or a printing mistake. It's about an engineering decision Kenner made and then panicked over almost overnight. And here we are, the exact figure that started this whole video. Every Vader figure came with a black lightsaber. But the very first ones Kenner made had something different. A second, thinner piece hidden inside the main saber that slid out even further. A 2-piece, double telescoping design built to look closer to the movie prop. It broke constantly. It cost too much to make. So Kenner scrapped the design and switched to a single-piece saber almost overnight. Only a handful of those original double telescoping Vaders are known to still exist. Here's the check. Look at the black lightsaber. If there's a second, thinner piece that slides out even further from inside the main saber, that's double telescoping, the rare one. If it's a single piece that only extends once, that's the common version everybody has. Vader was the toy every kid was a little bit scared to play with alone in the dark. The breathing, the cape, somehow the villain who became everybody's favorite figure to own. This exact figure, the one from the very beginning of this video, sold at auction in 2025 for $130,095. As far as anyone can verify, that's the most any Star Wars figure that actually reached the public has ever sold for. The standard single telescoping Vader, the one almost everybody who owned Star Wars toys actually had, is one of the most common vintage figures out there. Loose, it's a $15 to $30 toy. Same figure, same year. The only difference between $15 and $130,000 is something you can check tonight. So that's 8 toys, from $1.99 all the way up to $130,000, and every single one of them started out in some kid's toy box, exactly like the ones probably still sitting in your closet or your parents' attic right now. Tell me in the comments, did you have any of these? And be honest, did you throw any of them away? If this saved you from tossing something you shouldn't, go ahead and like the video and subscribe if you want to keep finding out which old toys are actually worth real money, because there's a lot more sitting in attics than anyone realizes.